The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
You're smart, so you already know this. But in case something has made you forget for a little bit, I just want to remind you. We all need belonging. It's not something that we can take or leave. It's just part of what we need to have. And there are people who we belong with. They're the ones that let us be ourselves, that help us to find out who we are, that help us to grow into our potential. But there might be a secret that you don't want to share with the people that you are quarantining with or that you're working with. Maybe they're the people that you really, really love, but they are stuck with you in a house. And while you're stuck there, you feel like part of yourself is missing someplace else. There's this group of people over here. Maybe they're your extended family, your really close friends, and you can't be with them. And so there's like a part of you that's missing because you can't really be all of who you are without them. Or maybe over here there's a support system that you really need. And you can tell that you need it because your diet has been out the window, your exercise routine is flat, and there's part of this group over here that you belong with them because they bring out the best in you. And when you aren't with them, something is missing, and it's like it's calling out to you. And even though you're home, you're homesick at home. For some of you, it's even worse than just that, because it's more than just like a part of you is missing and you wish you belonged there. It's like you don't feel like you have a place to belong. Home isn't safe or comfortable. There's distance between the people in your house, even though you're right next to each other. You get ignored walking down the hall. You get abused verbally or in other ways, and there's just this distance, and it's like no one cares about you right where you're at. And so maybe in the darkness, you just ask the walls and the ceiling, because they're the only ones that seem to listen. Does anybody want me? Is there any place that I really belong? The problem with all of this homesickness and searching for belonging is you're never going to get away from it. It's part of who we are. It's hardwired into us. Psychology tells us that there's different stages of development that we go through, and at least 3 of them deal specifically with this need for belonging. We are wired this way. We are made to hear and to respond to a call from the cosmos. And I know that some of you, if you have small children especially, are going right to Elsa and Frozen 2 and this weird voice that would sing out to her when she was quiet, that she would hear and try and ignore. And there was something about it, though, she just could not shake herself free from. No matter what was going on or how good things seemed to be, unless she responded to this call, she would never be happy, never be satisfied. She would always be missing something. And so she went off where? Sing it with me. Into the unknown, right? And some of your kids are starting to break out in song, and I apologize. But it's still true that we are trying to answer this call that we all have, and we are trying to find belonging because of it. And it can be exhausting. I mean, try making friends. I love making friends. I love meeting new people, but it can be really tiring because you put yourself out there and you have to gauge how far can I go before I push too far. And when you try to really open yourself up and show them the weirdness that is you, are they even interested in it? Much less will they accept you. Or you try and join another group that looks really fun and you wish you had something like that, but to fit in there you would have to feel pressure to be just like everybody that's in that group, and you don't know if you can do it, and you're worried about being rejected or kicked out or abandoned. And over again, we just find ourselves in these places where we can't be ourselves, where we can't really explore who we are, and we don't have the support to grow into who we have been called to be. But still, we're getting called to. And we can't find the belonging. And so we start to do things to the voice. We ignore it. We just settle in and say, oh, I guess this is the best there is. I better just make it work. And we just deal with it. And part of us just kind of dies there in the sameness and the settling. Sometimes we just drown it out. We get our lives so busy, so noisy, that we never have to worry about hearing it. So we are binge watching every season of The Office, not once but twice. We're on round 7. And we're just going to keep watching it because that fills the time and we don't have to worry about anything else. Or we find substances, or we're swiping right or swiping left all of the time. And we're just so busy that we don't have time to hear the voice. And the problem is that we just keep ending up in the same place where the voice doesn't really go away. The life we're living isn't really what we want it to be. And we are homesick. And we are alone. And alone is not where you want to be, because alone is where the enemies come and there's no one to defend you. Alone is where you find yourself in the dark with it creeping up around you and there is no one to save you. And one of the biggest problems some of us have is that the darkness that we find ourselves in is darkness that we created. We were running from someone else, something else, and we found ourselves here trying to hide, but now the hiding is consuming. And we don't know if we've got a way out. And we're there by our own choices, by our own situations, and we don't know what to do. Because if we don't even belong here in this place that we made, where in the world do we belong? The West Point Church of the Nazarene, we actually have a mission statement. It's something that we use to decide how we're going to do everything. And part of the reason behind it is that it helps to try and answer this call question, this belonging question. Our mission is to connect people to the real life found in Christ. Because home isn't a place, home is a person. That voice that's calling out to you isn't some stranger in the distance. It is the voice of Jesus. Scripture tells us that he sings over us, and he sings a love song to us, and he sings a song that one writer describes like soothing a child. I've got 2 kids, and I can remember my wife doing this because I had a hard time getting up in the middle of the night. But when they would cry at night, she would grab this child and she would pull it close to her chest and she would rock and sing peace over this baby. That is what the voice of God is calling to you. In Psalm 23, one of the most famous poems ever written, one of the lines at the end talks about goodness and mercy following me all the days of my life. And it's funny because we think of it like picturing like a dog walking with us as we go down the sidewalk, just goodness and mercy bobbing their heads and going along with us. But it's not that. The word actually is used for hunting. It's this hunting pursuit. So goodness and mercy are coming after me. God is pursuing me, and he's doing it not to kill me, but to shower me with goodness and with loving kindness and with mercy. Even in the darkness that you created for yourself, even in the dark that you find yourself in, Jesus is still pursuing you, hunting you down to show you his love and his grace right where you're at. I don't know if you get that same sense, but tell you something. You are pursued and you are desired and you are loved far more than you have ever realized. Because Jesus' pursuit of you is so you can belong. He is where you belong. He wants to welcome you into the family. He wants to give you the access to his protection, to his provision, to his purpose. He wants you to realize who you really are because you belong with him. When you're with him, you can be yourself. There is no one you can be yourself with more than God. Why? Because he knows everything about you already. There is nothing about your brokenness, your weirdness, your uncomfortableness, your awkwardness. There's nothing about the stuff that you're ashamed of that he doesn't already know. And he still pursues you. And he still longs for you. So just be yourself. There's nowhere else that you could be that you could find yourself. Because in his presence, you're going to start to take on the family resemblance. One of my favorite things to do when I have a few extra minutes is to go and find pictures of people's pets with them and to see how the pets and the person look the same. It's weird, I know, but I really like seeing that because there's something about spending time together that you start to look alike. And God will tell you who you are. If you'll listen to him, there's a song that talks about it. that I am who you say I am, so I am chosen. I am not forsaken. I am a child of the King with everything that that entails. And you get to grow into yourself when you find yourself at home with Jesus, because God knows you better than you know yourself. There's parts of you that you are completely oblivious to, that nobody else has seen or known, but He knows it, and He can call it out of you when you walk with Him, and He will take you into situations to do good works that were prepared in advance for you, that you would have no idea that you could handle them or you could go through them unless you knew that you belonged with Him, because He's going to take you there. And this belonging isn't stopped by circumstances like a virus. It isn't stopped by things that are broken in your life. It doesn't get caught up in who's there or not there, or what you're gifted in and not gifted in. It is secure. There's a theological term for the secure belonging. It's a big word called atonement. And the best way to understand it is just to use hyphens and break it down. At one meant. It's hard to get a deeper sense of belonging than that. And it comes out of what Jesus has done for us. That's why it's secure, because it's not really about us. Paul writes to a church that he knows in Galatia, in Galatians chapter 4, and he puts it this way. But when the time had fully come, God sent His Son, born of a woman, born under law, to redeem those under the law, that we might receive the full rights of sons and daughters. Because you are sons and daughters, God sent the Spirit of His Son into our hearts, the Spirit who calls out, Abba, Father. So you are no longer a slave, but a son and a daughter. And since you are a son and a daughter, God has also made you an heir. Your belonging with God is going to look different than mine. It's not going to be the exact same thing, because He is too big and we are too unique to have a cookie cutter walk with Him. It's kind of like raising my two kids. I've got two kids, and one of the things that we need to do in our house that becomes a struggle from time to time is cleaning it. And so one of the things that helps motivate them is putting on some music, but the motivating music is very different for who's doing it. For one child, we're playing more classical stuff, and then the next one, we've got some more punk rock flavor going on. And depending on who is doing the cleaning in which room is the sound that you get. But both of them get to call me Daddy. Both of them can interrupt me. Both of them then call on me in the middle of the night. Both of them can ask me to help them get stuff. Both of them then come to me when they have problems and they need guidance. Both of them can cry on my shoulder. Both of them can just come and sit with me because they call me Daddy. I'm not reverend. I'm not pastor. I'm not mister. I'm Dad. And that is what you and I get with the Creator of the universe. No matter what I've done, no matter where you find yourself, no matter what it is you think disqualifies you, God is calling you and saying, you belong with me. And when you get here, you don't just get to sit like a slave or a servant or a guest. You get to call me Daddy. You get to interrupt me. You get to call on me. You get to get whatever I have is at your disposal. But to experience this, you have got to answer the voice that's calling to you. He pursues you. He's cleared everything out of the way that could possibly keep you from getting to Him. So what's next? Whether you have followed Him and know this for a long, long time, or this is the first time you've ever considered being in this place, God is calling you to something deeper, a bigger and greater and more intimate sense of belonging than you have right now. So what are you going to do? I would encourage you just to pick one thing. Maybe for some of you this is so new, you're just going to start talking back. When you hear the voice, talk back to God. We call this prayer. There's no magic words. There's nothing fancy. You just start directing your attention to Him. Maybe for some of you, you need to start listening a little deeper. And so you're going to find a Bible, or you're going to get an app that has the Bible on it, and you're just going to spend time listening to what He has already said to get to know Him better. Maybe you're ready to start learning a little bit more about what's next in this journey that you're on with Him. Talk to me. I would love to have a conversation with you about this. Or maybe today is the first time and you're ready to get to that place where you're like, you know what? I've tried finding a place to belong on my own, and it has not worked out. I am ready to come home to the person I belong with. Man, if that's the case, we would love to find out about it, and I'm going to give you the opportunity to do that in just a second. But the bottom line I want you to know is this. There is no need to be homesick when you found your way home. Because home isn't a place. Home is a person named Jesus. Let's pray. Father, I pray that right now, wherever somebody is at, they would know that they're not alone. They would know that no matter what they feel about themselves or the circumstances that they find themselves in, they are so valuable and so wanted that you are pursuing them right now, not with judgment and wrath, but with loving kindness and mercy and forgiveness and grace. That you are calling them home to you, that they do have a place to belong. And that place to belong isn't a place, it's a person named Jesus. That we might be able to call you Daddy. That we would have that close of a relationship with the Creator of the universe. That no matter where we find ourselves, no matter how many people are in the room, no matter how disconnected we feel from the rest of life, we are never alone and we always belong because we belong to you. Lord, if that's us the first time right now, and we're ready to take a next step, I pray that they would pray like this, that they would be sorry for the ways they have lived that have hurt your heart, and that they're ready to turn from those and turn to you. That they would know and believe that you have died for them and come back to life to proclaim to them that there is freedom now that they can live into, a new life waiting for them, and that they would take the steps right now to discover what that new life looks like and to grow it into all that it can possibly be. Or for those of us that have already been there or aren't quite there, I just pray that you would help us take whatever that next step is to belong closer to you. You're going to be creative and unique with all of us. So it might not look like somebody else, but there is a next step that you're calling us to take. And even if we can't trust you with everything, may we trust you enough to do that. Because I really believe that there is no way that we can be all that we are supposed to be. There is no way that we can get through this life if we do not find where we're supposed to belong. And there's no need to be homesick if you've found your way home. Lord, thank you for loving us. Thank you for coming after us with all that you've got. We love you today. Amen.